This video clip is part of EDUC5101G, a course entitled Learning with Technology, as offered in the online Master of Education and Digital Technologies program at the University of Ontario Institute of Technology in Oshawa, Ontario, Canada. This video clip is designed to outline the context or the situation in Module 3 within which problems pertaining to the social order can be identified and or clarified. The material displayed in this video clip is presented by Dr. Roland Van Oostveen, an Associate Professor in UOIT's Faculty of Education. The HCHI model, Desjardins 2001-2005, is being used in this course as it outlines the major technological competencies that will be explored throughout the course. This video clip will initially focus on the social order, or the interactions of the user with others using the computer to mediate the communication processes. With the advent of so-called new technologies in the social landscape, particularly dealing with computer-mediated communications, issues of conventions, ethics, rules, language, organization, tradition, and even culture all require revisitation, if not revision. When one individual wishes to communicate with another, and conditions are such that a direct person-to-person conversation is not possible because of time or distance, some computer-mediated communication technology might be used. Although such a situation requires that both subjects possess basic competencies of the technical order, this is not sufficient for the social interaction to be meaningful, worthwhile, and safe. Successful communication will require knowledge of the written language variants currently used in email, as well as the different conventions of netiquette, as in network etiquette, and even nethics, as in network ethics. In other words, in other cases, the subjects will have to be particularly aware of intrinsic delays in certain types of video conferencing or even simple chat. Finally, when these communications involve exchange of confidential or sensitive information such as credit card numbers, medical or legal information, the subject must be aware of the risks, and the user must also be familiar with and follow appropriate and ethical security procedures. The user must construct this procedural knowledge by reflecting on results of a variety of communications experiences and develop a concern for the needs of others in order to develop a strategy of thinking about and acting with others that would be safe, viable, and ethical. This language, the practices, and these conventions, once known and used by the subject in computer-mediated communications, constitute competencies that this model refers to as competencies of the social order. And that's an English translation of the paper that you see listed on the slide itself. While communication can be defined as the transmission of a message containing information from a sender to the receiver, this is probably a gross oversimplification of the interaction. In a wiki book on the subject of communication theory, several competing theories, see the URL on the presentation slide, have been produced. For instance, in his diffusion of innovations model, Rogers in 1995 suggests that SMCRE, for instance, the sender message channel receiver effect, is an appropriate definition as the model corresponds closely to the elements of diffusion, in that 1. Senders can be inventors or opinion leaders. 2. The message can be a new idea or product. 3. Channels can be interpersonal or mass communication. 4. Receivers can be members of a social system. And finally, 5. The effects can be individual adoption or social change. Alternatively, Nicholas Luhmann 2005 suggests that communication is coordinated selectivity. It comes about only if ego fixes his own state on the basis of uttered information. And that's a quote taken from Luhmann 1995. Luhmann criticizes the transmission metaphor of communication because it implies too much ontology, or the study of nature of being, and that an entire metaphor or possessing, having, giving, and receiving is unsuitable. Again, a quote from his 1995 paper. For Luhmann, communication is not an action performed by an actor, but a selection performed by a system. the selection that results in communication is more similar to Darwin's natural selection than to the everyday usage of the term. A social system generates communication much as natural environment generates biological traits. Another view is presented by Manuel Castells in 2004. Castells states that the rise of informationalism and the nature of networks has led global societies toward inequality and social exclusion, widening the cleavage between generic labor and self-reprogrammable labor, global city and the local city, information rich and the information poor. This again can be seen as a definition of communication which is presented in a networked society type of context. All of that is taken from Halavey, Petrick, Anker, Hurley, etc., 2006, the communication theory wiki page, or wiki book that I referred to earlier. And the URL is given on the slide in front of you. Within the context of the intersection of the social and informational orders, a variety of digital technologies have recently arisen. While collectively the intersection may be referred to as Web 2.0, in reality it is a collection of a number of tools, both synchronous and asynchronous, that allow for communication as well as the exchange of information. Therefore, tools as diverse as email, discussion boards, Google Docs, and wikis are all included, along with social networking tools such as Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Beyond this, tools that allow for video conferencing such as Skype, Adobe Connect, and Blackboard Collaborate can also be found in the intersection between these orders. This list just begins to scratch the surface of what is available. When viewing at communication within the context of digital technologies, the types of interactions can be studied from a number of different perspectives, one of which is explored briefly here. Following on the work of Castells, mentioned in preceding slides, and others, societal structures can be identified within interactions. The following two quotes may be illustrative of the relationship of power and discourse. Quote, text and talk appear to play a crucial role in the exercise of power. Thus, discourse may directly and coercively enact power through directive speech acts and through text types such as laws, regulations, or instructions. Power may also be manifested more indirectly in discourse as representation in the form of an expression, description, or legitimization of powerful actors or their actions in ideologies. Discursive power is often directly or indirectly persuasive and therefore features reasons, arguments, promises, examples, or other rhetorical means that enhance the probability that recipients build the desired mental representations. One crucial strategy in the concealment of power is to persuade the powerless that wanted actions are in their own interest. End quote. Secondly, a second quote begins this way. Crucial in the exercise of power, then, is the control of the formation of social cognitions through the subtle management of knowledge and beliefs, the pre-formulation of beliefs, or the censorship of counter-ideologies. These representations form the essential cognitive link between social power itself and the production and understanding of discourse and its social functions in the enactment of power. These quotes were both taken from Van Dyck, 1989, Structures of Discourse and Structures of Power, Communication Yearbook, version 12. The effects of existing societal power relationships may be mitigated to a certain extent by the technological structures within which discourse is conducted. For instance, cooperative group activities, which are carried out by breaking up the main goal into a series of subtasks, each of which is assigned to individual group members, or the intersection of common goals, may disempower group members by not giving them access to the topics of interest or even the opportunity to engage in discourse beyond that of the subtask assigned to them. Collaboration, in contrast, is defined here as the working together to achieve a goal, and it requires a deep collective determination, replete with negotiations, as all members work to get towards a common view of the end product. And again, moving on to a further version of what collaboration could lead to is this whole idea of communities of practice or communities of learners. And this is a quote taken from Etienne Wenger in 2000. The scientific academic community relies on the process of peer review to ensure that a certain standard of rigor and quality is maintained. The community of practitioners or learners, like any other, has certain conditions and standards that determine the strength of the warrants for the knowledge claims that are made. Longino in 1994 identifies 4 conditions that a community of practitioners must meet if consensus or negotiation for common outcome is to count as knowledge rather than mere opinion. Number 1, Longino says there must be publicly recognized forums for criticism. 2, there must be an uptake of criticism. The community needs to do more than merely tolerate dissent. It must act on it. 3, there must be publicly recognized standards for evaluation of theory and practice. And 4, there must be equality of intellectual authority. What is included or excluded must result from critical dialogue rather than the exercise of power or economic power. And that's taken from Van Oostveen, Desjardins, Bullock, 2010, Professional Development Learning Environments, PDLEs, embedded in a collaborative online learning environment, COLE, moving towards a new conception of online professional learning. And that was retrieved from the Canadian Council for Learning, their website. Finally, some additional theoretical orientations among a multitude of others that may be applied to studies of the social order are the following. And I've just listed a number that I think may be of value to take a look at. So transactional distance theory, Michael Moore. There are 3 key variables to consider regarding transactional distance. That is things of structure, variables of dialogue, and finally learner autonomy. Second theory that you might want to take a look at is flow theory, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Flow, according to Csikszentmihalyi, is completely focused motivation and looks at the interaction of challenge level simultaneous to skill level. Thirdly, activity theory, which can be attributed to Vygotsky and all the way through to activity theory as applied to activity technological systems by Jonason. Activity theory then focuses on the interaction of human activity and consciousness within its relevant environmental context. Activity systems may be studied using the variables of rules, subject, tools, object, division of labor, and community, as all are related to the common goal. And finally, engagement theory, related or attributed to Kearsley and Schneiderman. The fundamental idea underlying engagement theory is that students must be meaningfully engaged in learning activities through interaction with others and worthwhile tasks. While in principle such engagement could occur without the use of technology, we believe that technology can facilitate engagement in ways which are difficult to achieve otherwise. So engagement theory is intended to be a conceptual framework for technology-based learning and teaching. That brings us to the end of this video clip.